We're looking at Psalm 50 together this week, and we're looking at the end of the Psalm right now. So far in the Psalm, we've seen that the Lord is holding court. He is the righteous judge, the almighty self-sufficient judge. He is holding court over Israel. Israel's is being condemned about some things. The Lord has called witnesses from the whole universe to witness to what he says is true. And he's condemned them over a couple of things. One is formalism. They were going through the motions of ritual and religion, but their heart was not in it. And they were therefore reducing the magnitude and the greatness of God in their thinking. They had turned everything around to think that God needed them rather than they needing God. He continues on with that now in verse 16 on down. He's going to condemn them of hypocrisy. Look at how they're living. They're going through the rituals. They're doing the right sacrifices and the offerings, just like God said. But look what's going on in their lives. Verse 16. But to the wicked God says, what right have you to tell of my statutes? Why are you proclaiming things about me? You're wicked. And to take my covenant in your mouth. For you hate discipline, and you cast my words behind you. When you see a thief, you are pleased with him, and you associate with adulterers. You let your mouth loose in evil, and your tongue flames deceit. You set and speak against your brother. You slander your own mother's son. This is a whole list of sinful behaviors going on with these people. And he's calling them out for that. He said, here you're living like this. It's in complete hypocrisy. Even as you live in this wicked way, and then you come to worship, and you do your offerings, and you think things are fine, and you've reduced me in your sight as far as the magnitude of myself. And so he is really holding court against them. He has many charges against them. But the real problem shows up in verse 21. These things you have done, and I have kept silent. The first issue is they think that God does not know what they're up to. That's always a dangerous place to be. Then they know what they were doing, and he calls them out for hypocrisy. But they think somehow they've gotten away with this because God has kept silent. God has not come out and struck them with a bolt of lightning. He's not cursed them directly, and therefore they think they're getting by with a certain level of sin. But here's even a bigger problem. You thought that I was just like you, verse 21. You had reduced God to bite size, human size. They thought God acted, behaved, had motivations, thought like they did. And they were totally wrong about that. Whenever we twist the greatness of God into something less than God, we're on shaky ground. And these people are on shaky ground. He's condemning them for their actions, for their hypocrisy, for their formalism, but it all goes back to their view of God. What you think of God determines how you live your life. And so he's saying, you thought I was like you. Now, what is the verdict about this? Verse 22, because this is true of them, he says, now consider this, you who forget God, I will tear you to pieces, and there will be none to deliver. Now, if you have forgotten me, he says here, I want you to know something. The day will come when judgment will come. Yeah, you think you've gotten by with something that I have ignored or don't see what you're doing, but I want you to know the truth. I see everything. And the day will come when the verdict will be announced in God's courtroom and you will be pronounced guilty. That's a serious thing to consider. But verse 23 tells us that there is a pardon available for guilty people. He who offers a sacrifice of thanksgiving honors me. And to him who orders his way aright, I will show the salvation of God. So the verdict of guilty on these people is there. They're wrong, and they're facing judgment as a result. But he says in verse 23, my pardon is always available. When you give a true, heartfelt sacrifice of thanksgiving, that honors me. When we follow his way, then that honors him. And he says, for such people, they will receive not a verdict of guilty, but a pardon. He will show them his salvation or his rescue from the very sins that they have been committing and the judgment that they rightly have. So Psalm 50 is a courtroom scene. It shows Israel, and us by extension, under the eyes of God. God is condemning those who simply go through the motions. God is condemning those who have reduced him to human size. God is condemning those who live in hypocrisy. And he says ultimately the verdict will be guilty and the punishment will be severe. But, and this is a very important thing, there is a pardon available in the Lord himself, so that guilty people, rightly guilty people, can be set free from their sin because of the salvation that God offers ultimately through his Son, Jesus Christ. Before God, we're all guilty, but through Jesus Christ, we can all be pardoned. If you do not know or have never thought through that you're guilty, but the Lord has come to pardon us, I hope you'll do that even today. That you have a wonderful eternity in the Lord because you know him and you know his salvation.